What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors sits down with a talk show host who thinks he can say whatever he wants in just 36 seconds? A single comment would destroy Greg Gutfeld's reputation and expose him as the entitled bully he really is. The studio lights were hot and bright as Denzel Washington walked onto the set. He had that calm, confident way about him that made everyone in the room sit up and pay attention. Greg Gutfeld was already behind his desk, that smirk on his face like he owned the world. The cameras rolled and Gutfeld jumped right in. "So Denzel, you're here to talk about your new movie? But I have to ask," Gutfeld said, leaning back in his chair like he was doing Denzel some huge favor. "Don't you think Hollywood actors should stick to acting instead of preaching to the rest of us about politics?" Denzel kept his cool. He always did. "Greg, I think everyone has the right to share their thoughts. That's what makes this country great." Right, Gutfeld said, waving his hand like he was swatting away a fly. "But come on, you guys live in your fancy mansions and private jets. What do you really know about what regular people go through?" The audience got quiet. You could feel the tension building. Denzel straightened up in his chair. "I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York. My father worked 2 jobs. My mother was a beauty shop owner. I know exactly what regular people go through because I was one of them." Gutfeld laughed, but it wasn't a nice laugh. It was the kind of laugh bullies use when they think they're being clever. "Oh, please, that was like 50 years ago. You've been rich and famous longer than most people have been alive. You're completely out of touch." "I work with young people in my community every day," Denzel said, his voice still calm but getting firmer. "I mentor kids. I help fund programs. I'm not sitting in some ivory tower. I'm out there doing the work." "Doing the work?" Gutfeld repeated, making air quotes with his fingers. "You mean writing checks and taking pictures for your Instagram? That's not real work, Denzel. That's just buying good publicity." The camera caught Denzel's face. His jaw tightened just a little bit. Anyone who knew him could see he was getting upset, but he was holding it together. "Those kids I work with would disagree with you. The families who benefit from those programs would disagree with you too. Look, I'm not saying you're a bad guy," Gutfeld said, still with that smug smile. "I'm just saying maybe you should focus on entertaining people instead of lecturing them. People watch movies to escape, not to get another sermon about how they should think and vote. Entertainment and having something meaningful to say aren't mutually exclusive," Denzel replied. "Movies have always reflected society. They've always had messages. That's what art does." Gutfeld rolled his eyes. Actually rolled his eyes on live television. "Art," he said, drawing the word out like it tasted bad. "Most of what Hollywood makes these days isn't art. It's propaganda wrapped up in pretty pictures and big explosions." "That's a pretty broad statement," Denzel said. "There are hundreds of movies made every year. Thousands of people working in this industry. You're painting everyone with the same brush." "Am I wrong, though?" Gutfeld shot back. "Look at the movies that win awards. Look at the speeches actors give. It's all the same political message over and over again. Don't you get tired of being told what to think by people who pretend for a living?" The audience was getting uncomfortable. People were shifting in their seats. This wasn't the fun, light interview they came to see. Denzel took a deep breath. "I don't pretend for a living, Greg. I tell stories. I try to bring characters to life. I try to help people see the world through different eyes. That's what storytelling has done since the beginning of time." "Storytelling," Gutfeld said with another one of those nasty laughs. "Is that what you call it when you stand up at award shows and lecture millions of viewers about politics? Because it looked like preaching to me." "I call it using my platform responsibly," Denzel said. His voice was getting stronger now. "When you have a microphone and millions of people listening, you have a choice. You can use it for good, or you can waste it. I choose to use it for good." Gutfeld leaned forward, and his expression changed. The fake smile disappeared, and something meaner took its place. "Or you can use it to feel important. Let's be honest, Denzel. You actors love the attention. You love having people hang on your every word. This isn't about helping people. This is about feeding your own ego." That was it. That was the moment. You could see it in Denzel's eyes. He had been patient. He had been respectful. He had answered every rude question and ignored every snide comment. But questioning his motives for helping people? That crossed a line. Denzel's voice dropped low, the way it does in his movies right before something big happens. "My ego?" he said slowly. "You think this is about my ego?" The studio got dead quiet. Even the camera operators stopped moving. Gutfeld must have sensed he hit a nerve because that smug grin got even wider. "Come on, Denzel. You love being seen as this wise moral authority. It makes you feel good about yourself. Let me tell you something about feeling good about myself, Denzel said, sitting forward in his chair. I feel good when a kid from the projects gets a scholarship. I feel good when a single mother gets help with her rent. I feel good when young people learn they have options beyond the streets. That's what makes me feel good, not sitting here listening to someone who's never walked in my shoes tell me what my motivations are. Gutfeld waved his hand dismissively. Please, you write a check and move on with your life. You don't actually know these people. You don't live in their neighborhoods anymore. I don't know these people. Denzel's voice was rising now. I spend hours with these kids. I know their names. I know their stories. I know their dreams and their fears. Some of them call me Uncle Denzel. But you're right, Greg. I don't live in those neighborhoods anymore. You know why? Because I worked my way out. And now I'm trying to help others do the same thing. The host wasn't backing down. If anything, he was getting more aggressive. That's exactly my point. You worked your way out, so you're removed from their reality. You're like a tourist visiting your old life when it's convenient for photo opportunities. Something dangerous flashed in Denzel's eyes. Photo opportunities? You think I do this work for photo opportunities? Don't you? Gutfeld shot back. When was the last time you helped someone without cameras around? When was the last time you did something good and didn't tell anyone about it? Denzel stood up. Actually stood up right there on live television. The whole studio gasped. You want to know what I do without cameras? You want to know what I do that nobody hears about? Gutfeld looked a little nervous for the first time, but he kept pushing. Sure, enlighten us. I pay for kids' college tuition, quietly. No press releases, no announcements. Just me making sure smart kids don't lose their dreams because of money. I visit hospitals and spend time with sick children. No cameras, no publicity. Just me sitting with families during the worst times of their lives. I help ex-convicts find jobs so they don't end up back in prison. I do this because it's the right thing to do, not because it makes me look good. Anyone can claim they do good things in private, Gutfeld said, but his voice was getting shaky. How do we know you're telling the truth? Denzel laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. How do we know I'm telling the truth? Because unlike some people, my reputation speaks for itself. Ask anyone in my community. Ask the organizations I work with. Ask the families I've helped. They'll tell you the truth, or they'll tell you what you want to hear because you're famous and rich, Gutfeld said, getting desperate now. People kiss up to celebrities all the time. You know what your problem is, Greg? Denzel said, pointing right at him. Your problem is that you can't imagine someone doing something good without getting something back. You can't understand helping people just because it's right. That says more about you than it does about me. Gutfeld's face was turning red. My problem? My problem is that I see through the act. I see through the fake humility and the manufactured compassion. You Hollywood types are all the same. Hollywood types? Denzel repeated. You don't know anything about me. You don't know where I came from. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know the people who raised me or the values they taught me. You're sitting there making judgments about someone you've never met based on stereotypes and assumptions. I know enough, Gutfeld said stubbornly. I know you live in a bubble. I know you're surrounded by men who tell you everything you want to hear. I know you think your opinion matters more than everyone else's, just because you're famous. Denzel shook his head slowly. You're wrong about everything. But you know what the saddest part is? You're so busy trying to tear people down that you can't see the good that's happening right in front of you. You're so cynical that you think everyone has bad motives. That must be a miserable way to live. I'm not miserable, Gutfeld snapped. I'm realistic. I don't buy into the fairy tale that celebrities are heroes just because they write checks. Nobody said anything about being a hero, Denzel replied. I'm just a man trying to use what God gave me to help other people. But apparently that's too hard for you to believe. The audience was completely silent now. You could feel the tension in the air like electricity before a storm. Gutfeld looked around the studio, probably hoping someone would help him out, but everyone was just staring. He had gone too far, and everyone knew it. But Gutfeld wasn't done. He was sweating now, his shirt collar getting damp, but his pride wouldn't let him back down. You know what, Denzel? Maybe the problem isn't that you're fake. Maybe the problem is that you actually believe your own hype. Maybe you really think you're better than everyone else. That was it, the final straw. Denzel's eyes went cold. Better than everyone else? Or better than you? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Gutfeld's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. That's not what No. Let's talk about this, Denzel said, his voice getting deadly quiet. You want to question my character? You want to question my motives? Let's question yours. What have you done lately, Greg? What have you contributed to your community? How have you made the world better? I inform people. I give them news and commentary. You tear people down, Denzel interrupted. You make a living criticizing others. You sit behind this desk and throw stones at people who are actually out there trying to make a difference. That's your contribution? That's your legacy? Gutfeld was stammering now. I provide a service. People need to hear different perspectives. Different perspectives? Denzel's voice was getting louder. Or do they need to hear you attack anyone who doesn't think like you? Anyone who actually tries to help people? Anyone who uses their platform for something positive? The host tried to regain control. Look, this is getting out of hand. Maybe we should. No, Denzel said firmly. You started this. You questioned my integrity. You questioned whether I really care about the people I help. You called my life's work a publicity stunt. So let's finish it. I was just trying to have an honest conversation. Honest? Denzel laughed, but there was no humor in it. There's nothing honest about what you've been doing. You've been trying to bait me from the moment I sat down. You've been looking for a gotcha moment. You've been hoping I'd lose my temper so you could have a viral video. Gutfeld's face went pale. That's not. I wasn't. Yes, you were, Denzel said, stepping closer to the desk. And you know what? You got your viral moment. Just not the way you wanted it. Because now everyone gets to see what kind of person you really are. They get to see how you treat guests who come on your show in good faith. Denzel, please sit down. I'm not sitting down, Denzel said. I'm not pretending this is okay. You don't get to attack someone's character and then ask them to sit down and play nice when you realize you've gone too far. The studio was so quiet you could hear the cameras humming. Gutfeld looked around desperately, probably hoping his producers would cut to commercial, but nobody moved. This was live television, and everyone wanted to see how it would end. You want to know the truth about me? Denzel continued. The truth is that I was raised to believe that if you're blessed, you have an obligation to bless others. The truth is that I've made mistakes in my life, but I try to learn from them. The truth is that I don't think I'm perfect, but I try to do better every day. That's the truth, Greg. Can you say the same? Gutfeld's mouth moved, but no words came out. His whole face was red now, and sweat was dripping down his forehead. I think maybe we need to take a break. We're not taking a break, Denzel said. You wanted this conversation. You pushed and pushed until you got it. So let's have it. Let's talk about who's really out of touch here. Let's talk about who's really living in a bubble. Denzel, I think you're overreacting. Overreacting? Denzel's voice boomed through the studio. You spent the last 15 minutes attacking everything I stand for, everything I've worked for, and now I'm overreacting because I'm defending myself? The audience started murmuring. People were shifting in their seats, looking uncomfortable. Some were shaking their heads at Gutfeld. Others were pulling out their phones to record what was happening. You know what the real problem is here, Greg? Denzel said, his voice dropping low again. The real problem is that you can't stand the idea that someone might actually care about something bigger than themselves. You can't imagine someone helping others without wanting something in return, because that's not how you think. That's not who you are. Gutfeld tried one more time to salvage the situation. Look, I respect what you do. I just think. No, you don't. Denzel cut him off. You don't respect anything I do. You made that very clear. And that's fine. You don't have to respect me. But you're not going to sit there and disrespect the work I do with young people. You're not going to question whether I really care about helping my community. That crosses a line. I'm sorry if I offended you, but nothing, Denzel said. There's no but. Either you're sorry or you're not. Either you understand that you went too far or you don't. But don't give me a fake apology and then try to justify what you did. With that, Denzel reached up and unclipped his microphone. The sound echoed through the studio speakers as he dropped it on Gutfeld's desk. This interview is over, he said simply. And so is any respect I might have had for you or this show. He turned and walked toward the exit. The cameras followed him as he moved with that same calm confidence he'd had when he walked in. Except now everyone in that studio knew they had just witnessed something extraordinary. They had seen a good man pushed too far by someone who thought he could get away with anything. As Denzel reached the door, he turned back one last time. Gutfeld was still sitting there, frozen, his mouth hanging open. You know what, Greg? Denzel said. I hope someday you find something worth caring about the way I care about those kids. Because until you do, you'll never understand what you just tried to tear down. And with that, he walked out, leaving Gutfeld sitting alone at his desk, sweating and speechless, while the cameras kept rolling and the audience sat in stunned silence.